Morning, Jim.
GDs with
And welcome to the Unitarian Universalism. We're so happy that you're here, that you're joining us in the sanctuary. My name is Steve Paul. I'm in the sanctuary for our Friday worship. I'm Joe and I are members of our worship team here at the CBUC. We continue to wear masks in the sanctuary during our worship services as a way to keep each other safe. Thank you for being part of that action community care. On-site worship leaders who have tested negative this morning for COVID-19 will move their masks and they will move their masks during the service. This morning we're joined remotely by Karishma Gottfried, our speaker. Karishma is a young adult raised in the Union Fellowship with us, currently applying for seminary with the attention of Unitarian Universalist organization. She currently works at Sanctuary in Boston as campus ministry organizer and serves our denomination as covenant hotels and spiritual practices to living in routines and reasonable foundation we're happy to have the folks from Eastrose Fellowship, Unitarian Universalist joining us this morning as well. One of our gifts of worshiping both in person and online is that remote attendance is possible, as well as remote speaking, which Coach will be doing. As part of our gathering, we do have a table with quiet activities in the back. If you're someone at the age who listens better with something in your hands, feel free to visit that table at any time. reciting this morning comes to us from Pat 30 like this. Entitled, I'll share it with the Lord. The challenge we laid this morning is the symbol of our faith. It binds us together as one people. A reminder that our strength is in our shared faith in the Lord, and that our common word is the creation of a loved community among ourselves and in the world.
And our call to worship this morning is by Karishma called Hoping, Trusting for So Many Things. Here we have come into this sacred space, quieter now with our readiness. Hushed voices, hoping, trusting for so many things. For connection, for communion, for inspiration, for information, for healing, for wholeness, for words, for music, for celebration and consolation. Here we have come into this space bringing all of who we are. Let us be willing, however we are changed. Please rise in body and voice or in spirit to join in singing just as long as I have breath.
Infinite means more numbers than anyone can ever count.
to about 5,000 people put it in time. Any two that were alike. So the temperature, what the cloud is like, and other factors influence how snowflakes grow. So it's probably true that no two snowflakes are alike. Each is unique. Like you are unique from everyone else who has ever lived. Even if you have a twin who has the same genetic code as you, still the way that you develop through your environment and the interactions that you have with others means that you will be unique from everyone else who has ever lived. Each snowflake has a journey ahead of it. Some parts of the journey are common to all snowflakes, and some parts are unique. And that's part of the journey as a thing for every snowflake that falls to the earth. But where it falls can vary. The snowflake may fall on one sidewalk and melt into water right away. It may fall off a cooler of grass and stick. I like it when snowflakes fall in on my eyelashes. The snowflake may even fall on top of other snowflakes, leaving piles of snow that you can build. Eventually, there will also be a big journey of melting water. Some water is so dense with ground that nourishes plants, flowers, and even vegetables like tomatoes. Some water runs into gullies to rivers, which meets the ocean, the biggest gathering of vast snowflakes down the time. Water from the oceans and plants and other sources evaporate when they form and turn larvae. Our snowflake has returned to where we live.
Is our practice is to be false, each week, to get in touch with the truths in our lives. What the most important things to you right now? What is making a difference in your life? In your ability to live your values? We know that among us there are joys and sorrows, hopes and fears. Sometimes it helps us to name those truths. It can be good to speak them aloud and let others know what is happening for us. It does us all good to witness each other's truths, to know that we aren't alone in this work of being human. This morning, if you have joys or sorrows to share, truths which are the most important things in your life right now, you're welcome to come and share them. We ask you to introduce yourself with your name, and if you like, you can pick up a stone from a small container and put it in a large jar to represent what you share. Those on Zoom, if you'd like to share joys and sorrows with us as well, please do so through the chat function, and we'll do our best to read those before we finish. So, anyone?
Does anyone have anything they'd like me to share in the chat?
My name is Alex Stemmig, and several weeks ago I came up here and talked about, actually it was one of the few weeks ago, a couple months ago I talked about concern for my cat named Mary Jane, how she was deteriorating and her diabetes was out of control. But last weekend, one of the reasons why I wasn't here is I wanted to spend as much time with her because I made a decision to have her euthanized last Tuesday. So I'm down to 4 cats now, and I'm not looking to get any more. And it's quite an adjustment.
My name is Alicia Boyd, and yesterday I attended a meeting for starting up Thai food co-op in Richmond, and it made me so joyful because I knew there were meetings going on, but the momentum was got, and loans are being procured, and they are planning on getting a building and maybe opening up this summer. So I'm very excited about that.
You know what? Okay, thank you, everyone. We will put one more stone into the container for all the joys and shares that have come, joys and concerns that have come to us this morning, here being spoken. And now we will sing hymn number 1.1, Spirit of Life.
Please stand with the body or soul as you feel fit.
Reading to chorus by Sophia Lyons, It Matters What We Believe.
Thank you. Some beliefs are like walled gardens. They encourage exclusiveness and the feeling of being especially privileged. Other beliefs are expansive and lead the way into wider and deeper sympathies. Some beliefs are like shadows, clouding children's days and fears of unknown calamities. Some beliefs are like sunshine, blessing children with the warmth of happiness. Some beliefs are divisive, separating saved from unsaved, friends from enemies. Other beliefs are bonds in a world community, where sincere differences beautify the pattern. Some beliefs are like blinders, shutting off the power to choose one's direction. Other beliefs are like gateways, opening wide vistas for exploration. Some beliefs weaken a person's selfhood. They blight the growth of resourcefulness. Other beliefs nurture self-confidence and enrich the feeling of personal worth. Some beliefs are rigid, like the body of death, impotent in a changing world. And other beliefs are pliable, like the young sapling, ever growing with the upward thrust of life. So there's this story about Hosea Ballou, who is sometimes called the father of Universalism. One day he's traveling with a Christian minister, I've heard Methodist, Baptist, but it doesn't really matter, I guess. And they're arguing about theology. And this other minister says, "If I were a Universalist, and I feared not the fires of hell, I could hit you over the head, steal your horse and saddle, and ride away, and I would still go to heaven. And what do you think Baloo said? He said, if you were a Universalist, the idea would never occur to you. As an out and proud Unitarian Universalist, I am used to being a spokesperson for our faith. I grew up in Corvallis, Oregon, in a county often listed as one of the least religious places in the United States. And I found it equally difficult to explain just what I did on Sunday mornings to my religious and non-religious friends. I wasn't Christian enough to join in on the Bible studies and summer camps, but at the same time I was still too religious for most. For most of my friends, Sunday mornings were for soccer games or for sleeping in. And I used to dread going to church on Sunday mornings. Well, church wasn't even the right word, because we're a fellowship. And the UU Fellowship of Corvallis was just a few minutes walk from my house, so there was no excuse for skipping. I still remember one very wintry Sunday when my family strapped on the snowshoes to make it to the service on time. But when I was in 6th grade, I was finally allowed to stay home. And I don't know if I would have ever gone back, except next year my parents enrolled me in OWL, which is short for Our Whole Lives. It's a comprehensive and lifespan sexuality education program created by the Unitarian Universalist Association and the United Church of Christ. Great. So not only did I now have to go to my weird fellowship every week, but I had to talk about sex. Basically, every middle schooler's worst nightmare. I begged and pleaded with my parents, but like the firm Tauruses they are, they help. And I have to tell them that that's probably the best parenting decision they've ever made. That OWL class definitely taught me a lot about safe sex and healthy relationships. But even more, it was the first time I truly felt a part of a community. I felt nurtured and challenged by the adults, supported and strengthened by my peers, and free to grow into my authentic self over the course of the year. I'll give a special shout out here to Reverend Monica's husband, Jacob, who was one of my OWL instructors and definitely part of the reason I stayed involved in Unitarian Universalism. After the program ended, I sheepishly trailed my parents out of the door the next time I headed to church, and I kept coming back. And next year I went through UUFC's Coming of Age program, which was a chance for me to explore my own values in relationship with Unitarian Universalism. And I'll actually give a shout out here to Eastrose, because you all were actually the first UU congregation I ever visited, besides my own, during a program where we took a weekend trip to Portland. It was great to see you all again. And if you haven't done a coming of age program, or you don't know anyone who has, it might seem far-fetched to imagine 12 and 13-year-olds examining their own values and defining their personal theologies. But you'd be surprised how spiritually mature UU children and youth are. I remember a friend of mine telling our congregation passionately about the physical makeup of the universe, explaining that the elements that make a human body are the same stuff that stars come from. Another boldly proclaimed that she believed in God and wanted to explore Christianity further. Adults from our congregation helped find her another church in the area that she could visit. And when we talk about children and youth being our future, it's important to remember that they are also present right now and have so much wisdom to share. Theodore Parker, a Unitarian minister most famous for his quote about the arc of the moral universe bending towards justice, was just 27 years old when he took the pulpit in West Roxbury outside of Boston, in a congregation that's now named after him. And I have had the privilege of guest preaching at that congregation in November on his very same pulpit, which was very cool. And I had to remind myself that I'm only 5 years younger than he was when he became a minister. And Theodore Parker is actually such a great example of one of our heretical ancestors, partially because he was so young when he started his career as a Unitarian minister, but most importantly because both his politics and his theology changed drastically in the 24 years of his ministry before he died at just 49 from tuberculosis. So early in his career, he, with a lot of other liberal Christians / early Unitarians, were beginning to question the validity of some of the miracles that the Bible tells about. Like, the world being created in 6 days, Noah and the flood, Moses parting the sea. And as he spent more time with transcendentalists like Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau, he continued to develop his own views on the Bible. And later he even began questioning the miracles of the New Testament. While he still believed in the power of Jesus, he would dismiss any story that involved angels or demons. And he acknowledged that the Bible, just like any other text, was human-made, and therefore included mistakes and contradictions. At the time, this proclamation was a step too far out of line for many. And while his church in West Roxbury supported him, he was no longer welcome in most Unitarian congregations in Boston, and he lost a lot of friends. Universalist poet and former Oregon poet laureate, Edwin Markham once wrote, "They drew a circle to shut me out. Heretic, rebel, a thing to flout. But love and I had the wit to win. We drew a circle and took them in." Each generation of Unitarians and Universalists and Unitarian Universalists has been a little more curious, willing to push a little further, ready to draw the circle a little wider to welcome more wonder and love into our lives. The word heretic comes from the Greek heretikos, which just means to choose. And of course, our definition of heretic implies that the choice in question was made incorrectly, or at least in contradiction to the status quo. And for every instance that Unitarian Universalism has been heretical, has been making those contradictions to the status quo, or every time Unitarian Universalism has been on the forefront of social change, there are examples of our failures as well. Like when Ethelred Brown, a Black Unitarian minister in Harlem, was removed from fellowship with the American Unitarian Association until the ACLU threatened to sue. Or when Frances Davis, a white Universalist minister, married Marguerite Campbell, the sister of a Black Universalist minister, and Christian leader, one of those precursors to today's UU World magazine, attacked the interracial couple. I lift up these examples to show that our history as a progressive religious movement is complicated and continues to be. It's an important part of Unitarian Universalism to question, to challenge, and to criticize. And we should be able to do that while drawing our circle wider, not trying to cut people out. As a young, queer woman of color, I have heard that people like me shouldn't be a part of Unitarian Universalism, that we're pushing too hard, that we should go off and make our own religion. So I think I know a little bit about how Theodore Parker felt. The thing is that Unitarian Universalism is a living, breathing faith. Always growing, always changing, always ready to learn more and to do more. And part of our history as a heretical tradition means that we must continue to choose, to adapt our understandings as we learn more, to acknowledge the mistakes we've made and the harm we've caused, and to listen deeply as we work on building a beloved community for all. In some ways, the conversations that our Unitarian and Universalist forebears were having in the 18th, 19th, and 20th centuries are the same conversations we're having now. They were asking, who are we? And what do we believe? Now, some Unitarian Universalists like to claim that since we are a non-creedal faith, we therefore can believe anything we want. And although our values do allow for a wide range of personal beliefs, I would argue that there is indeed a shared Unitarian Universalist theology, much of which has emerged from the heretical traditions of Unitarianism and Universalism. And in fact, that's what my senior undergraduate honors thesis is all about this year. I spent the better part of the last year reading sermons, learning our history, and interviewing youths from all over the country. And while, of course, I have seen that wide range of personal theology, there are still many values that we hold in common, like radical welcome, critical thinking, and courageous love. For too long, our faith has been content to inch forward, widening the circle ever so slightly, but never enough to fully encompass all of those who need to hear the message of our welcome and our salvation in this life. We have been playing the game of telephone since before even the telephone existed, choosing to focus on individuality when we need to focus on interconnectedness. So let's shout it from the rooftops. Let's spread the good word of Unitarian Universalism, and with it, the message that no one is outside the circle of love. As Unitarian Universalists, we believe that everyone deserves salvation, deserves freedom from harm and evil, and that salvation can be achieved through the liberation of all. We believe that there is something that connects not only each person, but everything in this universe. And it is our duty as Unitarian Universalists to search for that connection and use it to achieve liberation for all. Thank you.
Please join us in singing number 100, Peace Like a River. Stand or sit as you feel comfortable.
Thank
inspiring and motivating words this morning. And thank you, Nancy, Alex, and Matt for music today. It's wonderful. At this time in our service, we pause to receive an offering. Unitarian Universalist congregation is self-supporting. All the funding for our presence here comes from contributions of members and friends of this congregation. Our offering is a time to engage in the spiritual practice of generosity, remembering that each of us has the power to give and share of our resources. When we combine our gifts to create an offering, together we're able to do far more than any of us can do alone. Our offering is also an invitation for gratitude for the gifts of our life that life has given us, the network of relationships in which we live into the presence of this community. Each week is another chance to bring gratitude to mind during this time. If you're new or visiting us for the first or second time, you are our guests, and we do not expect you to contribute. However, if you are moved to be part of our offering, what you share will be most very grateful to receive. We'll pass offering baskets here in the sanctuary, and you're invited to give online via our Breeze contribution page. The link will be in the chat. But not the light of truth, the warmth of the community, the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are ever again.
It is time for announcements, and I have three. First is that we will be meeting next week in the same physical and virtual space. Our sermon by Dr. Reverend Monica will be on centering in song. It'll be a service of both silence and song. I encourage you to come. The second is that, as all of you know, we have a fairly big problem with homelessness in our community. And as a matter of fact, last night around 3 a.m. we had a number of them gathered in our alcove right here. We have kits that have been constructed of toiletries and other essentials that someone who's homeless might find useful. if you know of someone that, or you encounter people who are homeless and you would like to give them something, I encourage you to take them. They're on a little tray back here as you exit. Thirdly, we have a request from a group of UU young adults who've been organizing around divesting the UUA endowment on fossil fuels and using the resulting funds for racial justice reparations. But in order to put this proposal on the agenda for our General Assembly in June of 2023, they're seeking 250 signatures on their petition. Our board has looked at their proposal and decided to put it forth for your consideration. We have not endorsed it one way or the other. Copies are available on the table in the back of the sanctuary. You do need to be an active member of CUC to sign, and our signatures will need to be certified by a board officer or administrator. The board is not, as I said, the board is neither endorsing nor disapproving the proposal. Our evaluation was to be sure it was a sufficient merit to put before this congregation. Good. Are there any other announcements?
Did you mention did you say that they're going to be doing Zoom? Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Apologies, we have the announcement a little shorter than it should have been. A representative from that youth group will be on Zoom today. I'm trying to get her here around 11:30. The original is 11:45, but Randy moved earlier today. So I have a few minutes to stay. It's only like a 10, 15-minute presentation, and then you might feel more comfortable deciding whether or not you'd like to sign the petition. Totally up to you. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that now.
And now, Karishma will provide our benediction.
Thank you all so much for having me. As I mentioned in the chat also, I got signatures in Corvallis for that investment petition, so I recommend and I do personally endorse it. I'll leave you with these reminders that we are a community of thinkers and seekers, that we are heretical saints. We are able to choose, and we have chosen how we want to be in relationship with each other, what we draw our wisdom from, and what we believe. We are a radical, liberal, and theologically rich faith, and we must continue to bend the moral arc of the universe towards justice.
Thank you everybody for coming today. With our minds and our hearts and our hands, may we choose to bless the world. With our minds and our hearts and our hands, may we choose to bless the world. With our minds and our hearts and our hands, may we choose to bless the world. Thanks, everyone.
again for coming today, and please join us next week. Reverend Robin Zucker will be here. Well, she won't be here. We'll be watching a recorded service that she has done, and we're going to have Keen tell you why it's important to come to that.
Okay, go ahead.
I think most of you already know this, but I just want to make a reminder. Next week, after Robin Zucker's service with us, which we will be reviewing and seeing who she is and how she speaks,